Today, we're diving into the absolute apex predator of the road, the brand new Porsche 911 Turbo S. Porsche just made this car faster than ever, but they may have also created a very strange problem for themselves in the process. So, we're going to break down the wild new specs, the insane tech, and look at the unique paradox of building a car that might just be a little too perfect. Let's get right into it.
Let's kick things off with the sheer, undeniable horsepower of this updated 992.2 Generation 911 Turbo S. 701. Yeah, you heard that right. That is the massive horsepower figure Porsche managed to squeeze out of this new machine. They didn't just tweak a few minor things here. They really pushed the boundaries of what this engine can actually do.
So what does 701 horsepower actually feel like when you put your foot down? Well, you get supercar-level acceleration. It delivers this ridiculous speed that makes the road feel like it's literally disappearing underneath you. The car doesn't build speed gradually, it practically teleports you down the highway.
But, of course, all of this mind-bending speed comes with a pretty steep barrier to entry. We're talking a massive base price of around $270,000 here in the US, and remember, that is before you even start ticking boxes for Porsche's notoriously expensive options. When you're spending that kind of cash, you absolutely expect perfection.
Sounds like an easy choice, right? If you've got the budget, buying this car seems like a total no-brainer. But let's pause for a second and look a little closer at what Porsche actually changed under the hood. Because as you'll see, it's really not as straightforward as those performance numbers might suggest.
Which brings us to our first section, the bait, the specs, the tech, and what actually changed inside the new Turbo S.
Okay, so the real magic here is in the sequence. Porsche didn't just turn up the boost and call it a day. Instead, they introduced electrically assisted turbochargers that spin up almost instantly. These work flawlessly in tandem with the car's new hybrid system to give you way quicker, highly responsive power delivery. It basically eliminates old-school turbo lag completely. The power is just right there, exactly when you want it. The result? Maximum performance with minimum drama. The craziest thing about the Turbo S isn't just that it's fast, it's how incredibly easy it is to access that speed. You don't need to be a professional race car driver, and you definitely don't need a perfectly paved road. You literally just press the throttle, and the car's computers sort out the rest. It's totally effortless.
But that leads us straight into our second section, the catch, the perfection paradox, and what happens when speed becomes just a little too normal.
This is where things get really fascinating. You see, for years, the Turbo S has carried this kind of strange reputation. Porsche has become so ridiculously good at making mind-blowing speed feel completely normal. Stable braking, extreme grip, effortless acceleration that you might honestly catch yourself wondering, wait, did I just drive a supercar or did the car drive itself? That right there is the Turbo S philosophy in a nutshell.
Take this thing off the highway and onto a twisty mountain pass, and it almost feels unfair to the road. The active chassis systems are constantly working behind the scenes, so the body stays perfectly controlled and the tires stay glued to the pavement. Plus, that all-wheel drive system gives you this enormous sense of confidence. You just point the steering wheel and it grips and goes. You're never fighting the car, you're just looking for the next corner.
However, physics still exists. And here is the catch. All of this advanced technology, the hybrid systems, the active chassis components, while they add weight, Porsche hides it brilliantly with their engineering. For sure, but make no mistake, this is now a highly sophisticated, heavier performance machine, not a pure, lightweight sports car.
There's also a bit of a compromise for the purists out there when it comes to the sound. Yeah, the newly aggressive exhaust system definitely sounds better, but it's firmly focused on efficiency, precision, and pure speed. It sounds like a machine executing a task flawlessly. It is absolutely not that raw, emotional, arm-hair-raising scream you'd get from a naturally aspirated GT3.
Which perfectly sets up our next section, the twist, the internal threat, and the $270,000 question.
So is it actually worth paying this much for? Look, we know the Turbo S is undeniably fast enough, but is it really worth that massive price tag when Porsche has created a pretty huge complication within its very own lineup?
That massive complication? It's the 911 GTS. The biggest threat to the new Turbo S might actually be this other 911. You see, the GTS doesn't actually have to beat the Turbo S, it just has to get close enough to be dangerous. And spoiler alert, it gets very, very close.
Just think about the direct comparison here. The modern GTS already offers brutally quick, super usable performance that most people could never realistically exceed on public roads. Plus, it costs significantly less. So it really makes you wonder,
what exactly are you buying for that huge Turbo S premium? Well, you're buying top-level satisfaction, absolute maximum capability, and a bit more tech. But honestly, that gap in everyday usable performance, it's shrinking fast.
All right, let's wrap this up in our final section. The resolution, capability versus emotion, and what you are actually buying.
Now, for some people, buying the absolute maximum version is totally worth the cash. If you want the ultimate high-performance daily driver, the Turbo S is incredibly difficult to beat. I mean, it's brutally fast, it gives you ridiculous cornering confidence, it maintains genuine everyday drivability, and it delivers supercar-level performance. If you want one single car that can literally do it all without breaking a sweat, this is your ride.
But here is the real dividing line. The Turbo S makes you faster, but the GT cars make you feel something. Designing a car for pure, unadulterated speed and designing one for visceral feeling are two completely different engineering goals. The Turbo S executes speed flawlessly. But if what you really crave is that raw, vibrating, emotional edge, you should probably look elsewhere in the Porsche lineup.
So that leaves us with one final thought. Is the fastest Porsche actually the Porsche you should buy? Ironically, Porsche has made the new Turbo S so utterly perfect in its overall capability that its own cheaper siblings have become its biggest threat. It just goes to show that the ultimate answer isn't nearly as obvious as the numbers suggest. Because sometimes absolute perfection removes the very challenge that makes driving so much fun in the first place.